G'day everyone, Buck up in far north Queensland. It's trying to fine up, but it's not working properly. Hopefully tomorrow, eh? Bit of sunshine, but it'll be raining in 10 minutes time. Hey listen, the BT50, my 2012 Mazda BT50 is about to clock over 220,000. I like to get my servicing done on around that mark every 10,000. So, as you know, a couple of years ago I retired, guys, living on a army pension now. And listen, I don't have money to throw around thing. And what I've decided to do is, a while ago, if there's things around the house or things that I can do by myself to save a few bucks, that's what I'm going to do. I've got a great mechanic here in town, and he's a fantastic mechanic, but it's at the stage now where I think, bugger it. If I'm capable of doing something, I'm going to do it. I've done a couple of oil changes on the BT50 myself now. The big trick with that is, as we know, Rangers and BT50s, you've got to get that engine started up within about 10 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes, so you can't stuff around. I've managed to pull that off a couple of times now. When you go into a lot of mechanics and you get a service done, dead set, all they do, and I'm not talking about my mechanic now, he's pretty good. You go in, they drop the oil, they put a new oil filter on and put new oil in, kick the tyres and charge you $300 or $400. Literally, or some might be $500, depending on what they do. Okay, so I've decided to do my own minor service, I'm going to call it now, on the BT50, and I'm going to run you through what I'm going to do on my minor service, the 220,000 service. Now listen, on a major service, as we used to call it in the army, that's when you do your diff, or your front and your rear diff, your transfer case, because I've got a manual, and the gearbox, okay? I'll do that at 240. So this one's going to be what I would call a minor service. I find a lot of mechanics don't check, unless you tell them to do it, they don't check what you want them to do. Wish I had Brad Howell here, guys. I got the BT50 looked over when I was on my trip last year at Ultratune in Maitland, outside Newcastle, and let me tell you, Brad went over the BT50 with a fine-tooth comb. Picked up a few little problems and rectified them, like leaky brake cylinders and stuff like that, and replaced the rear brake things that make the brakes work and all that. Did an absolutely fantastic job, and the BT50 hasn't missed a beat since. But I want to do my own service, save a few bucks, and I want to go the little step extra so that I know it's been done. And in this clip, I'm going to run you through what I'm going to concentrate on when I do my service. I'm not going to film how to do everything, guys. I'm not a qualified mechanic, very far from it. I'm bloody real basic when it comes to mechanical knowledge, and I mean really basic. But I can do what I'm going to talk you through this morning, I think, because I'm going to try and do my fuel filters. Haven't done them before, but I'm pretty confident that I'll be able to do my own fuel filters this time. Been watching them on YouTube. As I said, I won't be filming exactly how to do everything. I might run the camera over a few things. But just this one here is mainly what I think you should concentrate on when you do a minor service on your four-wheel drive at home, or what you should ask your mechanic to do, because I know a lot of mechanics don't bloody do it. I'm going to drink my brew while it's still warm. So I went into Super Cheap yesterday, my favourite shop, Super Cheap Auto, and I bought some basic stuff that I'm going to need for the service. So I'll backtrack a little bit. The service logbook on the BT50 went up to 200,000 kilometres. So since then, there's nowhere you can get your logbook stamped. I've had my logbook stamped, and I'm religious about getting the oil changed every 10,000 kilometres. Some people will say, Buck, you should change it every 5,000 on a diesel. A lot of people do. One reason I don't do it is the cost. Basically, it's just a lot of money to get an oil change done on your vehicle. $300 a pop for me to get the oil changed on my vehicle at the mechanic. And even just to go and buy the oil and the filter, that's not a cheap exercise anymore either. I notice I go into Super Cheap now, and every time you go in to buy something, the prices have gone up. They used to be for a 10 litre oil, 119. Yesterday, 129. You know, it's all going up. My diesel additive has gone up from 30 something dollars to $52 a bottle. Everything is getting expensive. The mass airflow cleaner, $33 a can. Nothing's cheap anymore, guys. Nothing's $5 a can except the old degreaser and the windscreen washer. Everything else, you're paying big money for. And filters. My air filter on my BT50 used to be $50. It's now 70 to buy it by itself, $72 yesterday. I just said to the bloke, mate, it's 20, like they used to be $50. No, they're 72 now, mate. See what I mean? Everything's getting expensive, which is probably why when you go into the mechanics, your servicing's so expensive. I mean, they're paying more for oil and filters and all that too, and got to pass the costs on to us. So anyway, went into Super Cheap yesterday, guys, and the stuff I bought for the service is a 10 litre drum of 5W30, I think it is. Yeah, 5W30 diesel oil. I use Newline oil, which is one of the brands that Super Cheap sells, and it's Aussie made. It's made in Australia. There's other brands in there, Penrite, Gulf Western and all that. I think Gulf Western's an Aussie oil as well, but I've been using Newline in the BT50 and it seems to be doing the job. The BT50 takes 9.75 litres of oil, which is basically on the money for an oil change. There so I get 250 millilitres left over from each service as spare oil that I can put in a little container and carry. But to tell you the truth, I've never had to put oil in that BT50 unless it's been for a service. Rafa's come out to say g'day. He's come out, what's Dad doing? He's out in the shed. So 10 litre drum, I think that was $129 yesterday. It was a 130. Anyway, it's getting dearer, isn't it? People say, buy a 44 gallon drum and get it cheaper. Well, yeah, I know, but then I've got a 44 gallon drum of bloody oil sitting around, or even a 20 litre drum. Probably cheaper ways to do it on special. I just went in yesterday and bought that. So 10 litres of diesel oil, and the bloke said, do you want a filter kit? And I said, no mate, I've already got oil and fuel filters, and I've got to go over and grab them in a minute. I'll drop the camera. I said, so I only need the air filter and the cabin filter. Then I'll talk about the cabin filter soon. And he said, all right. He went over and grabbed the air filter, $72. Then he grabbed the cabin filter, $50 something. He said, you know what? He said, you can get the whole kit for the same price, mate. He said, just get the whole kit, you'll have a couple of spare filters. So that's exactly what I did. Really bloody helpful in it, Super Cheap. He said, what's your rego number? I said, 069 blah, blah, blah. And he brings it up and yep, 2012 Mazda BT50 3.2 litre 5-cylinder turbo diesel. I said, yeah, that's the one, mate, cab chassis. And he goes, right, and it tells him exactly what oil the BT50 needs, what filters you need and all that type of stuff. So if you're out there, guys, and you don't know what kind of filters and everything your car needs, the people at Super Cheap Auto or Repco, I guess, can do the same thing. We'll do exactly that. Put your rego number in and it comes up and it tells you everything that your car takes. So for the same price of what I was going to do individually, I've got a full filter kit here. And I'll just put it down for now and we'll go through them. So there's 4 filters in here. The first one is the air filter. Now listen, I don't change my air filter every service. I certainly blow it out with the air compressor every service, and I do it more regularly than that. Diesels need clean fuel and clean air, and they'll keep going for you. So I'm going to replace, that air filter's been in there a little while. If I was going to Cape York or somewhere where I'm doing real dusty roads, get your old air filter, blow it out, put it in a plastic bag or whatever, keep it as a spare. Okay, if you're going on one of those real dusty trips, okay, it's good to carry a spare air filter. Cape York, where's Pete just done? The Holland track over in West Aussie. Pete's just come back from the Holland track. All those great inland road going over to West Aussie, all dirt driving. might be good to carry a spare one of these. That used to be 50 bucks, 72 now. Just shows you the price. But that's a spare air filter. Okay, and that was $72 by itself. I got this whole kit for $129, I think. So I'll be changing the air filter. I'll probably show you how to do that. It's nice and easy. And in conjunction with the air filter, I'll talk about that later. I'm going to talk about the mass airflow meter as well. So the air filter, we've got a fuel filter. Now this is the factory filter. I've got a separate filter. I've got a pre-filter on the BT50. Old Alan Gray from Terrain Tamer. Ruthie's old mechanic, guys. And I said to the Terrain Tamer boys at the Townsville show the other day, how's Alan going? He's still going strong. He's well into his 80s now, Alan. One of the best mechanics in Australia, Alan Gray. I remember I was saying to Alan at the Cairns show many years ago, I'm about to get a BT50, Alan. He goes, mate, the first mod you do to that BT50 is put a pre-diesel filter on it. And that's exactly what I did. So this is the factory fuel filter. I'll be changing that. Comes with a spare. And for the BT50, it's an R2724P. So every car will have a different thing. The Ryco filters are a good aftermarket brand filter. There's nothing wrong with the Ryco brand, guys. I've been using them for many, many years and they've never let me down. So that's the factory fuel filter. That is a 5 micron, I'm pretty sure, 5 micron, okay? Not a 2 micron, that's a 5 micron, that's the standard one. And then I've got the little oil filter, so I'll be taking the oil filter out and replacing this thing, replacing the oil filter, and that will go into the oil filter housing, so I'll replacing that. And I'll turn the camera off because there's a filter over there I forgot to grab. This one here I couldn't get it super cheap. I got it from Burson's Auto. We go into Burson's and I've got a fuel manager diesel pre-filter on the BT50 and this is the spare cartridge for that. This is a 30 micron. So this filters the diesel before, so it goes through a 30 micron, through that first, a pre-filter, then into a 5 micron, which is the factory filter. So there's a better chance of saving a dirty gut full of diesel if I've got the pre-filter on there. And 30 microns is well known. Morris Grasso told me this. 30 microns is the best one for if you get a bit of water in your diesel. And this has got a water separator on it and it's got a bowl at the bottom. I'll give you a look when I do it. Okay, so 30 micron pre-filter, the Fuel Manager brand, which is a very popular brand for pre-filters, and the factory filter. The other filter that kit came with is a filter that everyone forgets about, and not many mechanics, I reckon, have changed this filter. It's called a cabin filter. I'll show you where it is on the BT50. It's a little flat filter and it's in under the glove box, guys. And what that does is filter all your cabin air coming in through the air conditioner and that. A lot of people, stops 98% of most airborne contaminants such as dust, dirt, pollen from entering your car. I didn't even know about this till many years ago, and when I did finally swap it out in the BT50, the one under the glove box was putrid. Absolutely putrid, which means it wasn't probably filtering properly anymore. So a good thing to do, guys, is every service or every second service, make sure you change your cabin filter. Ask your mechanic to do it, or go into Super Cheap Auto, get the filters and give them to your mechanic and say, mate, I want you to change these filters for me if you don't know how to do it yourself, and make sure they do it. So if you go into Super Cheap, once again, it just comes up and it's got the actual kit, and they put the exact type of filter you need for your vehicle in there. So for the same price, $129, I got all 4 filters there for the price I could have bought the air filter and the cabin filter. Basically, I got the oil and fuel filter for nothing if I was to buy it individually. So keep that in mind, guys. Buy the package for your vehicle, it's a lot cheaper. Now, what else did I do? Besides the oil and all that, I did say I was going to change the air filter. Now, going into the air filter is a thing called an MAF, mass airflow meter. Mass airflow meter. And let me tell you from experience, if those things start playing up, your car will cause you endless problems. That was the Achilles heel of my old Nissan Terrano 2, guys, the mass airflow. It kept stuffing up, it kept putting that vehicle into limp mode, it did my head in. So, Brad Howell told me this when he did the service. He unscrewed the mass airflow meter, put it on a rag, and you grab a can of this stuff, and it's like electrical contact stuff, and you give it a really good spray both sides, okay, and then it dries, and then you put it back in. You don't have to wipe it or anything, you just spray that mass airflow, CRC mass airflow cleaner on there, and that will clean your mass airflow. So you should do that every time you change your air filter. Take your mass airflow meter out, which is just a little plastic clip and then 2 screws, pull it out, put it on a rag, spray this on it, leave it to dry correctly or properly, put it back in, screw it back in. Very easy job. I'll show you how to do that. Spray it with some mass airflow cleaner. Probably a good thing to have in your toolkit too. That would have been good to have when I had the old Nissan Terrano. Gee whiz, that thing caused me some problems. It really did. What else am I going to do? When I change the oil, I'm going to use some engine oil flush. Get all the grime and gunk and that that stays up, that doesn't fall down into the sump. You might get stuff that's, you know, to the tappets and all that. I'm going to put some engine oil flush in. So what you do before you drop your oil, you pour that in into where your oil goes. Let the engine run for 15 minutes and then you drain it, and that gets all the sludge and grime and that out of the engine. It gives you a cleaner engine so that when you put the new oil in, it's not mixing with old oil that's still stuck in there. So wouldn't use that every service, but I'm going to use it on this one. Some Newlon engine oil flush, Aussie made once again. It's like a thin type thing that must just get the grime and sludge off, and it tells you exactly what it does there. I won't read it out. So I'm going to put some of that in. And you've got to warm your oil up before you drain it out anyway. So all I do is just pour a bottle of that in, 10 minutes, let it idle, let the oil warm up, drain my oil, okay, put it back, the sump plug back in, and then get the oil back in within 10 minutes and start her up so that the oil pump can pick the oil up, and then I'll change my oil filter after that. I don't try and change my oil filter at the same time within 10 minutes. I'm not that brave, guys. As I said, I'm not a mechanic, but I just do it the safe way. What else am I going to do? I'm going to do a tyre rotation. Okay, I've got the BFG, what are they? The KM2s, the mud terrains on the BT50 at the moment. I was running the KO2s. I've got 2 sets of wheels for the BT50. Those KO2s there I found were getting a little bit slippery. I'm not a fan of the BFG KO2s. I reckon they're shit on the blacktop in the wet. They've got no grooves in there to spit the water out. I'm not a fan, and my next set of tyres are going to be probably all-terrain. I reckon I'll go to a Yokohama or something like that and give them a go. But the KM2s, the mud terrains on the BT at the moment, they're a good tyre. Really good. Really feel confident off-road on the gravel roads the other day. You could just feel the grip they were giving. I've still got a fair bit left in the KM2s. I'm going to keep them on there. But, so I get a better life. Starting to rain again, told you. So I get better life out of the thing. They reckon you should rotate your tyres every 5,000 kilometres. I don't know when I actually put them on. But anyway, I'm going to rotate my tyres. Easier said than done when you don't have a ramp. But I've got the luxury of having a spare set of tyres. So what I'm going to do is get my mud tyres, and I'll show you how the rotation goes. I'm going to take the muddies off, put the all-terrains on, then move the mud terrain, rotate them around, and I'll show you this on video, and then take the all-terrains back off and then put my muddies on, rotate my mud tyres. It's going to take a lot longer. Yeah, it'd be easier if I had a ramp and a rattle gun and do it in 10 minutes. It's going to take me probably an hour to do that, but hey, I'll get out here in the shed and tinker around. It's a good excuse to tinker around in the shed, isn't it? Get out of Roz's hair, she'll go, Rogers, get out in the shed, leave me alone, go and swap your tyres around. In the comments, let me know if you've got a really good all-terrain tyre that's good for all round. You know, listen, I drive a lot on the road. I do a little bit off-roading, not much. Gravel roads and all that. Don't do hardcore four-wheel driving in the BT. Let me know a good all-terrain that I should have a look at, and I'll take it. Yokohama, I've had Yokohama Geolanders before. They were a good tyre. I was impressed with them. I know there's some other good ones out there as well. Thinking of going either the KM3s next time when the KM2s are worn out, or go with another really good all-terrain. But I'm not going BFG again, guys. I'm not. That's the second set I've had. Not a fan. When they start wearing, they get a bit noisy. They shit on the blacktop in the rain. When I was towing the caravan, they were in the wet, they were spinning. They were terrible on the blacktop. Not a fan of them. Not a fan of them. So, going to look at a new tyre. So I'm going to do a tyre rotation. Ask your mechanic to do that when you get a service. You'll get better life out of your tyres. Okay? That way they start wearing, rotate them around, and it's a proven fact you'll get better thing out there. Got some grease. I had that in the thing anyway. Grease gun. I don't know how many. I don't think the drive shafts and all that have got grease nipples on the BT50. But if I see a grease nipple, I'll probably throw some grease into it too, especially if you've got a four-wheel drive that's got the tail shafts with the grease nipple on there, like the old Nissan had. Get under there with a grease gun, give her a couple of squirts, guys. Certainly can't do any harm. What else have I got? Can of degreaser. This stuff is as cheap as chips. It's about the only thing cheap now is degreaser. Pity you can't drink that. It's cheaper than beer. So degreaser, so when I spill a bit of oil, which you always will when you do an oil change, bit of degreaser and hose it off. And the other thing I like to do is throw some windscreen concentrate in there, and bloody throw about 75 ml of that in, and that just keeps your wiper blades from perishing as fast and helps get bugs and all that. So that's only about $7 a bottle for a big bottle, so I'll throw a little bit of that in my windscreen reservoir. So that's about it. Oil, filters, tyre rotation. I'm going to get under, I'm going to check underneath. I'll get under with some spanners. I'm going to check all my nuts and bolts when I'm under I've got the set of ramps there so I can get up higher, so it gives me more room to work under the BT50. I'm going to check all my nuts and bolts and have a look under there for rust and just have a general check over, okay? When I take my wheels off, I'll probably get the air gun and blow the brake dust and everything out of my brakes. Have a look around. If anything doesn't look right and it's above my pay grade as a mechanic, which is pay grade 0.5, then I'll make a note of it and I'll take it into my mechanic and say, hey Matthew, can you have a look at this for me please? One thing I've also run, if you don't use your normal logbook, get a book from the newsagent and keep a note of the last time you did work on, if you do your own work. 1st of November 2023 at 209,000 kilometres. I did an oil change, 9.25 litres of Newline oil, changed the oil filter, inserted a tube of Penrite Smooth gear oil into the gearbox, which has made the gearbox a bit smoother. And then Matthew did some work, my electric window wiper, up and down window motor. I got on, here's a story for you. The little motor in my thing, my window wouldn't go up and down on the driver's side. Went into Mazda, they wanted $600. Can you believe that bullshit? I got the part for $99 on eBay and Matthew fitted it for me. Mazda wanted $600. That sums this country up, and I'll tell you now, Mazda, if you're watching, you're a disgrace. The price of your spare parts for vehicles is a disgrace. You're price gouging, and if you have got a Mazda BT50, go to Ford and get the matching part of Ford, because it's the same vehicle and Ford's a lot cheaper than what Mazda are. Mazda are a disgrace with their servicing costs and their spare parts costs. They wanted $600 for Mum's Mazda 3 for a tail, she had a cracked tail light, $600 for a new one. I got the same thing, the full unit, $99 on eBay, probably out of the same factory. Screwed it in, put it in for Mum, plugged it in, and it worked perfectly for $99. So it does pay to shop around and see if you can save yourself a few bucks. All right, filters, oil, general check over, tyre rotation, all that type of stuff. Bit of grease when I put the tyres on. I got this trick from Brad Howell. Never seen a mechanic, and it's something, before you put the new wheel back on, just a little bit of grease, on the 6 wheel studs. All right, so when you put the thing on, just little things like that, and I'll have a general check over as well. Anyway, I think I've covered everything. That's what I'm going to do on my basic service. I think this is what should be done on your minor services, if you want to call them that. Major services, yes, gearbox, transfer case, I'm doing that in the next 20,000. I do my oil every 10,000 on the BT, tyre rotation every 5,000, and fuel filters every 20. You can do them every 10 if you want, guys, but they recommend every 20,000 for fuel, or if you think you've got some dodgy fuel or something's wrong with your power, change your fuel filters. I was lacking a bit of power on the BT50, and Brad said, mate, the first thing you do on any diesel engine, if it's lacking a bit of power, change your fuel filters. And that's your first IA. Immediate action, change your fuel filters. That could be, could have some dirty fuel, and that's all it could be. Anyway, this is the prelim to it. It's probably gone for half an hour already. When I actually get into it, hopefully this weekend, if it's fine, I'm going to start doing all the work. I'm not going to show you how to do everything. I don't think I'm in a position, and I don't want people going, well, Buck did it this way and his engine blew up. I don't want to take responsibility for that. I'll show you some little tips and tricks along the way. If there's anything important worth mentioning, I'll do it, and we'll see how we go. If I have trouble doing the fuel, I'll let you know, guys. I'll be honest. And I've got the GoPro there. If I can set the GoPro up and film a little bit of it, but I'm not going to do a how-to series. There's plenty of videos out there on how to change oil and how to do this and how to do that. And to the people that have got how to change BT50 fuel filters on there, thank you so much. There's some good ones out there, and it's a good way to learn. It's a good way to, and don't just go off one person, watch it, and if you've got 2 or 3 people all doing the same thing, it's a good thing. The other thing I forgot to bring over is a bit of silicone spray for the factory fuel filter. There's a few things there. You spray the little rubber grommets with some silicone spray, and it helps them screw in a bit better. So I'll show you that trick when I get around to doing it. Anyway, wish me well. Hopefully this weekend I can get in and do a good service on the BT50, because I've got some good camping trips coming up, and we've got a big trip down to South Queensland, northern New South Wales and all that in August. So I want the BT50 to be rocking and rolling for that. Righto.